It's the Jake Asman Show right here, 880 ESPN New York, UFC 309 tomorrow night at Madison Square Garden. And one of the people on the fight card is a native Long Islander, a former UFC world champion. The great Chris Weidman joins us now ahead of his big fight against Eryk Anders tomorrow night. Chris, first things first, welcome home, my friend. I know there's a ton of Long Islanders, a ton of New Yorkers who cannot wait to watch you at MSG tomorrow night.
Yeah, man, I'm pumped. I'm pumped to put on a show for them. Excited to be back in New York. I moved down to Fort Mill, South Carolina, that like during COVID. And it's good to be back.
For you, when you have an opportunity to fight in front of the hometown crowd, does that add any pressure in the training process? Does it add any pressure when you're actually walking out there, getting set for this fight to start in the octagon? What are the emotions like leading up to the fight when you get a chance to fight at MSG? And then, of course, during the fight, as this will be your third opportunity to fight at Madison Square Garden?
Yeah, I mean, there's a little redemption to come back to Madison Square Garden. I had two fights here already. And I lost, so I feel like the pressure's already off. I had the worst things happen to me in the Garden, so I think I can go out there a little bit more loose. As a fighter, you put a lot of pressure on yourself just to go out there and do the best you can. It's hard to have any additional pressure added. To be honest, it's hard. There's a lot of pressure you already put on yourself.
Chris Weidman joining us here on the Jake Asman Show on ESPN New York. So, Chris, for you, when you look at your opponent, Eryk Anders, what have been some of the things that have stood out as you're trying to assess him and get ready for this matchup tomorrow night?
I think he's tough. He doesn't break easy. He's a big, strong kid, athletic, southpaw. So he throws left hands, straight left hands, but I think he's a little slower than me on the feet. I don't think he's as technical as me on the feet. And then when it comes to wrestling and jiu-jitsu, I think I'm levels above.
You know,
So
for you, Chris, in your career, I mean, the amount of surgeries that you've been through, the injuries you have dealt with, have you thought about just how impressive it is to even kind of be in this spot? I mean, a decade after you first became a world champion, here you are fighting again and being a big part of a huge fight card at Madison Square Garden.
yeah, when I back up a little bit and I look at what I've been through and how old I am, I'm like, damn, what the hell? I can't believe I'm doing this still, and I could still move, and I feel great. I can't. I'm actually blown away by the whole thing. 30 surgeries, and I probably had the worst injury in the history of the UFC when my leg snapped and the bones actually came out of the skin. That's the first time ever that there was a compound fracture in the UFC, and just everything I had to go through to come back from that has been really, really tough. And here I am. I feel pretty damn good, man. When I play other sports now, I notice a difference. I'm not the same old athletic Weidman that could just like jump up, go and jump on a basketball court and hang in there with some good dudes. And I played baseball with my son the other day. He's on a travel baseball team. He's 12, and it was the last practice, and they had the parents come out to try to compete against their son, and they had one of those radar guns out, and we had to try to see who could throw faster. And I thought I'd beat him. Um, and he crushed me. I threw a 51. I felt like my shoulder was going to fall off. He threw a 62. And I'm like, my little 12-year-old man is thrown faster, man. I mean, he's 115 pounds. And that's just crazy to me. And then he had a pitch against me and try to strike me out. And bro, he struck me out. I was trying to hit the damn ball. Hit me with a slider at the end, caught me reaching. Um, and I'm telling you, 10 years ago, I don't think that's happening. So it's pretty cool when you see your son getting better than you at something, because it's just weird. I'm proud that he's doing good.
We're talking with Chris Weidman here on the Jake Asman Show on ESPN New York, 8 a.m. And, of course, the ESPN New York app. Chris, of course, fighting Eryk Anders at UFC 309 tomorrow night at Madison Square Garden. I mean, Chris, for you, when you became the middleweight champion for the first time, I just remember watching that fight back in 2013 with a bunch of my high school friends, also, of course, from Long Island. And there was a sense of pride amongst us that, hey, a Long Island guy, a New York guy is a UFC champion. What
Yeah.
was it like for you kind of going through that? How did your life change once you defeated Silva the first time and became the champion?
Oh man, it changed in so many ways. It was the first time. I was a wrestler for. I mean, I played every sport going in high school. I played. I was a football player, lacrosse, and wrestling, and then I wrestled in college, and I wrestled on the highest level. and I had a lot of accomplishments, but I never actually like accomplished any of my like big goals that I set out for myself. And when I got in MMA, I set, the goal of I wanted to become a UFC world champion, and to do it, um, undefeated too. I was undefeated. I was only 8-0, I think, when I was fighting Anderson Silva, one of the greatest of all time, and then to knock him out, the feeling was indescribable. And then my life changed crazy, man. I went from, that was my first pay-per-view card ever was on, and it was before that I had one main event fight night against Mark Munoz, but like still not too many people knew me. I wasn't getting asked, for my autograph that often or anything like that. And then, I did that. I made way more money than I've ever made in my life. All of a sudden I had money, and all of a sudden like everyone kind of knew who I was, and it was really cool. And even hearing you talk about you from Long Island and you were watching like that, I always had I have such pride being from Long Island, and I always support people from the island, and I loved how much support I got from everybody from back home. It was really cool. And then there was a time I fought at Nassau Coliseum, which was that's probably my number two moment of my career, was packing out Nassau Coliseum with everyone from Long Island there, and then getting a finish. I felt like I won a belt. It wasn't for a belt though.
The Coliseum rocking for Islander games in the heyday and for Chris Weidman
Exactly,
fights.
and I'm an Islander fan. I'm such an Islander fan. Not that I follow as much as other people. I was big in the '90s because I was playing hockey. I love watching them then. But as I got older, I just started getting focused on my own self, and so I stopped watching as much. But I that's one team I'll never root against, and I won't root for any other NHL hockey team. So when I came out here on Tuesday, the UFC was trying to get me to go to the New York Rangers game, and they wanted me to wear the Rangers jersey and all that stuff, and go on the ice or whatever. Put me on the jumbotron. I actually said I can't do it. I'm not going. And people think I'm crazy. It's a great promotion. You go on the jumbotron at MSG and all that, and I'm like, I can't put a Rangers jersey on, and I know they're gonna want to put it on me, so I couldn't do it.
Man, I think every Islander fan just gained even more respect for you, Chris. I
Yeah,
mean, that's
yeah.
the move. I mean, you can't be an Islander fan and wear a Ranger jersey under any
I
circumstance.
I can't do that. That's one. I root for every other New York team. Like, I'm not like that with the Mets, Yankees, or the Giants and the Jets. If one of them is in the playoffs, I'm rooting for them. But when it comes to the Islanders, that's, listen, man. And I grew up around tons of Rangers fans who live on Long Island, and they always piss me off. I don't know if you're a Rangers fan, but
Big Islander fan. You're good.
all right, good. Like, I just never got that. We have one damn team. Bet freaking support them. So yeah.
We're talking with Chris Weidman, of course, former UFC champion, will be on the card tomorrow night at Madison Square Garden. He's fighting Eryk Anders in what should be an awesome fight if you're a fight fan. I mean, for you, at this stage of your career, Chris, I know people are always talking about, hey, could this be your last fight? I mean, have you given it any thought, though? I mean, to still do what you're doing at 40 is incredibly impressive, but I'm sure you're going to continue to get asked about it. Do you put any thought into it with, the storyline of, hey, it's MSG. I'm going out there in front of the home crowd. Have you thought about this maybe being your last time in the octagon?
I kind of wish I was ready to retire right now, but I'm not. And I agree. It would be a great place to put down my gloves. It would really be cool, to get a win and put down the gloves. But I still feel good, man. I still feel like I have more to offer. I think with all the injuries I've had and stuff, it actually probably prolonged my career because I was off for so long, and I feel like I still have more to give. And thank God my body has kind of recovered, and I feel great still. So we'll see how I perform under the lights, because that's a big thing. Like in the gym, I still feel great. I'm still, crushing these young kids still, and I still have it. But it's all about how you perform under the lights, and so um, that will be a big thing for me. Like deciding when I hang it up is like, all right, how am I performing? Under the lights. Really, I know I still have it in the room, but performing, when it matters is what that's all that matters. So
You seem to still love the grind of getting ready for these fights, right? Like you love the training, you love the
yeah,
process.
yeah. As long as my body's not hurting me, I'm very motivated. And this camp, I was able to work around things, and I just yeah, I still feel great. I listen to my body way more often, and so I'm not overtraining like I used to, and probably why I have so many damn surgeries. I do more strength and conditioning stuff to where it holds my body together better. And yeah, I feel great. And actually, yeah, I love getting ready for a fight, man. It just if you haven't done it before, just there's nothing like being in a camp and knowing you have a fight at the end of it, and the motivate like how motivated you are, how disciplined you are, and the routines, how dialed in you are. Like when I don't have a fight, to try to like eat healthy and not drink and all that stuff, it's hard. But when you have a fight, it's like not even a question. I don't drink 12 weeks out. I eat clean all the way from 12 weeks out, and it just really dials you in and you become like a healthier, stronger individual.
Chris Weidman is my guest here on ESPN New York. It's the Jake Asman Show here, 8:80 a.m. and the ESPN New York app. Couple quick hitters for you, Chris, because of course some of the other big names that are a part of this card have similar ties to maybe your career path, or a guy like John Jones from Endicott, New York. He actually bought me drinks back in my Ithaca college days when he was up there with his brothers in between some fights. What do you make of the main card here? You have one of the greats ever, if not the greatest, in John Jones, and a guy in Stipe who's a huge fan favorite and certainly could easily be a champion as well. How do you view the main event?
Well, John Jones, I got a lot of respect for him. Everything he's accomplished. He was a New York State wrestler too. He was a state champion. I was a state champion. We kind of always had we had a good relationship, and then it got weird. We were talking about fighting for a while. When I was champ, he was champ at 205. But I got a lot of respect for him. But over the years, I became super close with Stipe. We've trained together a bunch. He's a close friend now. So I'm pulling for Stipe. And it's a lot of people are overlooking Stipe in this fight because they just have John Jones on such a high pedestal. But I think people are making a mistake overlooking Stipe.
The other fighter on this card that is intriguing to me is Bo Nickel, because I look at your career, Chris, the wrestling background that everyone knows about, and Bo has a similar career path so far. What have you made of his rise in the sport? How do you view, his chances of being a great fighter going forward as a UFC champion in the future?
I like that kid a lot, man. I think he's got the right mentality, strong minded, very mature for his age. I think he's a humble dude. I think he is a future star for sure, and definitely a potential world champion. You never know what's going to happen. This fight game is so crazy. He hasn't he hasn't really dove into real stiffer competition yet. But I got high hopes for him. I like that kid a lot. Yeah, we did pitches together yesterday, and it's cool to be around him because he does remind me of myself, honestly, up and coming. He had a better college wrestling career, but we're very similar coming up. Even the way he does jujitsu and stuff is very rare to have a wrestler that is very good on the ground too at wrestling. A lot of guys, even if they're great at wrestling, they get on top and just control, and they're just trying to win like that. He's a finisher, and I've always been the same way. I like that kid a lot, man. I think yeah, I'm excited for him.
Chris Weidman is our guest here. All right, Chris, final question. Two Long Island guys chopping it up here at ESPN New York. If you have only one meal left in your life, you got to pick a restaurant, you got to pick some style of food on Long Island. What's the go-to meal if you only get one choice?
Oh my God, one choice. Man, okay. I mean, it's the Italian food, the pizza and all that stuff. But if I had to, honestly, what I miss the most is just like a good egg everything bagel toasted
Mm,
with cream cheese, or egg everything bagel toasted with sausage, egg, and cheese, salt, pepper, ketchup. Uh, yeah, that I'd probably have to go with that.
love that. I was
But I
hoping.
love, but I love me some good penne alla vodka with fried chicken cutlet on top. A lot of people don't do that. They do grilled chicken. You do some fried chicken cutlet on top, almost like a chicken parm, but with the vodka sauce. That's my favorite meal. Yeah.
Love that. So could we expect that to be in the dressing room after a big win Saturday night?
If I was a better planner, yeah, maybe I should tell my manager. But it's gonna get cold. It's just not gonna be the same. But someone I don't know if you know about this place because it's not on Long Island, but it's the best pizza I ever had. It's in Brooklyn, in Coney Island. It's called Spumoni Gardens. Have you ever had that?
I've heard of it. I've not had it though.
Oh my gosh. So one of my buddies is he's an older dude and he's obsessed with good pizza. So he brought me there a couple times. His dad's from Coney Island. Best pizza I ever had. And there was a fan that I met here yesterday. He's like he's from Coney Island. He said he's gonna bring me Spumoni Gardens on Friday. So I'll have that in my room. We'll keep that cold. And I might be reheating some of that after the fight. And I'm going to Little Italy for my weigh-in dinner. Post weigh-in dinner at night. This place called Il Cotil, and it's so good. I've been there a couple times, so I'll be doing probably some penne alla vodka then too.
There we go. Love it. The champ is back home. Big fight Saturday night, UFC 309. Chris Weidman taking on Eryk Anders. Chris, I think I speak on behalf of every Long Islander, every New Yorker. We're all rooting for you on Saturday. So good luck. And thanks for everything you've done representing the great state of New York, the island, the whole thing, and your great career.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah.